present, making the Acambaro figurines astonishing in the sense that they show dinosaurs and people together, yet it's from a time point that's manageable to us, 4,000 years BC. Now, if we contrast this with the Dr. Cabrera's Ica stones, which he believes are 65 million years old, simply because that's when dinosaurs are said to have become extinct, we find that the Acambaro collection is actually lending credibility to the Ica stones. Yet, it's clear that the Acambaro stones are not 65 million years old. And I think that this is more the correct dating of these artifacts, and that most probably the stones of Ica are also from about the same time period, say 4 to 5 to 6,000 years ago. Perhaps the solution to the paradox of dinosaurs and men being together can be explained by the Acambaro collection and the Ica collection, and the cataclysmic dating and a change in the whole geological scale, where we see that what's causing extinctions is these cataclysms. It's also creating the fossils. The geological time scale is compressed, and therefore amazing discoveries such as the figurines at Acambaro can be authentic. The dating absolutely correct on them, and dinosaurs did in fact come down right to that period in time. And similarly, Dr. Cabrera's stones in Ica would be authentic as well, but not 65 million years old, but more along the same dating as the Acambaro collection, 6,000 to 7,000 years old. I think that one of the solutions to the paradox of dinosaurs and people together, and the vast discrepancy in time, the whole timeline of millions of years versus only thousands of years, can be explained in a cataclysmically geological view of the past, where rather than geological events taking place over millions of years, they take place more quickly, and what is a million years on a geological time scale is in fact only, say, 1,000 years. And therefore it's going to bring all this dating much closer to us and make it possible so that in a scientific way, man and dinosaurs can have existed together in the past, and in fact, dinosaurs can still be alive today in small numbers in remote areas of the world.
There are quite a few authenticated cases of man-made artifacts being found in rocks which are thought to be very old, especially coal seams, for example. It's quite commonplace. What tends to happen is that conventional geologists take these artifacts and dismiss them immediately. They say they must be wrong, they couldn't possibly be of that age. Well, I suppose there are two explanations for these artifacts. The first is that there really were people making things many, many millions of years ago, or alternatively, our dating methods are not as reliable as we think they are, and the strata are much younger. I think on the whole, the second explanation is probably the more sensible one. Science says that strata can be dated by radioactive dating techniques, and there's a whole range of techniques that are used in the laboratory to date rocks with what appear to be great accuracy. Now, in reality, when you start to examine these radioactive methods of dating, you find that they're a lot less reliable than they at first seem, and there are many, many examples of that. But it may well be the case that a human artifact, which is found in a rock seam which appears to be millions of years old, if that rock seam has been dated by radioactive techniques, it may well be that it's much less old than is thought. On the face of it, an artifact, human artifact found in a layer of rock which seems to be millions of years old is an inexplicable anomaly. It's not so inexplicable if the strata isn't millions of years old and if the dating method that's being used is in fact inaccurate. And I suspect that in many cases that's exactly what has happened in recent years. We use radioactive dating techniques to date rock strata. The technique is thought to be unassailably reliable. It's thought to be absolutely accurate. In fact, many, many anomalies have been discovered which do cast doubt on the accuracy of the method, and many scientists who are involved in dating and in metallurgy and chemistry and other related fields have published papers casting doubt on the accuracy of radioactive dating. But these doubts tend to be ignored by the scientific community. The dating anomalies and the evidence which contradicts the reliability of dating is being ignored by scientists on the whole, because they'd have to restructure their whole theory of the age of the Earth. It would mean really starting from scratch. There are some, for example, artifacts found in coal seams appear to suggest that there were humans around hundreds of millions of years ago. That would be impossible by current theory. Alternatively, the coal seam might actually be very recent. The coal might have been formed 1 million years or even less than 1 million years ago. That too would be unacceptable to modern science. For example, the rate at which coal is formed is still controversial. The conventional idea is that coal is formed very slowly over millions of years, and that basically it's age that determines the formation of coal. In fact, there's quite a bit of evidence in the field that coal might be produced from wood by pressure alone. For example, modern timber pilings of bridges have turned into a low rank of coal. The Ohio coal seam in the United States, the rank of the coal increases as the coal goes further and further underground, as the pressure increases. So it seems that there is some evidence that pressure alone might generate coal in a relatively short space of time. Now, if coal can be produced relatively rapidly, what about the other rocks of the Earth's crust? Perhaps they could be formed relatively rapidly as well. This is complete heresy. This is one thing that orthodox geologists would not accept. And yet there is mounting evidence that some types of rock can be formed very quickly in catastrophic conditions. The effect that this has on our picture of the age of the Earth is that the Earth could conceivably be younger than the 4.5 billion years that it's customarily taken to be. And if that's the case, then there has been much less time available for life to evolve on Earth. And the Darwinian mechanism, which requires billions of years to work, is looking far less probable. There are many methods of dating that have been suggested over the past 50 years or so which don't rely on radioactive techniques, and some of which suggest that the Earth could be younger than we customarily think. For example, meteoric dust comes into the atmosphere every year at quite a substantial rate. Now, if the Earth really were 4,500 million years old, there would be many billions and billions of tons of meteoric dust on the Earth's surface. And the dust, by the way, is very easy to identify because it has 300 times more nickel content than terrestrial dust does. But this dust isn't present. It's been suggested it's been swept into the oceans and incorporated into ocean sediments. But of course, the ocean sediments are available to us in the form of the sedimentary rocks that are exposed all over the Earth's crust. And there's no sign of the meteoric dust there either. So where's it gone? That's at least one measure which suggests the Earth could be younger than it presently is thought. The significance of the great age of the Earth is that Darwinism is essentially a theory that's about time. Darwinism requires billions of years of time because the way that evolution is envisaged by Darwinists is as a process of gradual change, tiny changes, one generation onto the next, taking place over billions of years. Without those billions of years, the Darwinian process just couldn't take place. Darwin's theory is, I think it's been accepted so well because it's an immensely powerful tool of explanation, and we humans love to have things explained. Of course, that's what science is all about, isn't it? Explaining the world to ourselves. Darwin's theory appears to explain how we got here, how all living things got here, how things change, how we all arose from a common ancestor, how the Earth itself came into being. And it's very satisfying to many people to believe that they have a natural explanation to all those questions. That, I think, has meant that to a large extent people have not questioned the theory quite as thoroughly as they should have done. They have not bothered to deal with the anomalies that have arisen in the evidence. And quite naturally, when anomalous evidence has been discovered, scientists have tended to put it to one side, to think, well, when our overarching theory is extended in future, it will ultimately be able to explain this. The trouble is that the anomalies have been building up. They haven't just been swept under the carpet. There's now a mountain of them, and the mountain is threatening to topple over and swamp the theory completely. The key problems with Darwin's theory are that, quite simply, there isn't any really solid empirical evidence. It's conjecture on conjecture, supposition on supposition. They're all very plausible, they're very rational suppositions, very rational conjectures, but they are still conjectures. And I find it ironic that for most of this century, Darwinists have acted and spoken as if they had already delivered conclusive proof to us of their theory. Well, in fact, that's the last thing they've done. There is no conclusive evidence of Darwinism. The evidence seems solid, but as soon as you start to investigate it, it just melts away. The idea is that the theory is basically in place, that there are just a few gaps, we'll fill those gaps in sooner or later. But when you come to examine the concrete examples that are given, that are taught in schools and colleges, that most people